Okay, let's get right into it. Attorney Walter Hnot here, the most viewed, subscribed to, and clicked on disability attorney in America. Now, with that said, please keep in mind, I don't have the regular studio with me, so I look a little weird. The lighting's not right. I'm totally aware of this. I mean, I get it. But with that said, I'm officially on vacation. So we're going to keep these videos relatively short. We're going to get through it and rock and roll. Now, there are certain instances where the Social Security Administration is required by law to go ahead and kill your benefits. And the reason why is because something has happened that will essentially make it so that they're not allowed to give you the next check, or if they're about to pay you one, boop, they'll get it off the payment processing system. Now, the first one on this list that I want to focus on is when there's a death of a beneficiary. Some of you will be saying, well, that's an obvious one and an easy one. And it is an obvious and easy one, but it seems like not many people really, master that one because it keeps popping up on the OIG website. Here's one from like a couple of days ago, September 11th, 2025, from the OIG Office of Inspector General website related to Social Security fraud. Here we go. East Weymouth woman pleads guilty to bank fraud. Boston, an East Weymouth woman pled guilty today in federal court in Boston to fraudulently obtaining Social Security benefits. Deborah A. Seiler, 68, so 68-year-old female, pled guilty to one count of bank fraud. U.S. District Court Judge Leo T. Sorkin scheduled sentencing for December 15, 2025. Seiler was charged in August 2025, okay? So this is all like happening real fast for this lady. So this is a tough situation. Seiler fraudulently obtained approximately $61,685.13 in Social Security benefits from June 2015 through September 2020. Seiler had access to the checkbook and debit card of a Social Security beneficiary who died in May of 2015. Instead of reporting the beneficiary's death to the Social Security Administration or the bank where the benefits were deposited, Seiler accessed the improperly paid benefits by forging the deceased beneficiary's name on several checks and regularly depleting the account funds through debit card transactions. The charge of bank fraud provides for a sentence of up to 30 years in prison, 5 years of supervised release, and fine of up to $250,000 or twice the gross gain or loss, whichever is greater. Sentences are imposed by a federal district court judge based upon the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. United States Attorney Leah B. Foley and Amy Connolly, special agent in charge of the Social Security Administration, Office of the Inspector General, Office of the Investigations, Boston Field Division, made the announcement. Special Assistant U.S. Attorney James J. Nagelberg of the Major Crimes Unit is prosecuting the case. The point is, people keep stealing the benefits of people who just passed away. And let me tell you why this is happening. It's always happened, but it's happening. Oh, wait, sorry, we have crickets. I'm sorry. I don't know why this is happening. There we go. The crickets are gone. Again, I bought the soundboard on eBay. I'm super sorry. You may get crickets throughout this. It's part of the show at this point. So with that said, a lot of people are financially in such bad shape now that at the end of the day, it's just one of those gigs where people can't afford to like live where they want to live. Boston is super expensive. I lived there when it was expensive, which was basically 20 years ago. Okay, that's when I went to my undergrad, Berklee College of Music, Suffolk University for my master's degree. It was really expensive back then, like obnoxiously. Your housing was just mind-boggling. I don't know which is more expensive. It could be New York, could be Boston. I'm not sure, but very, very spicy. I know basically Hawaii is super expensive, California is super expensive, New York is super expensive, Massachusetts is, but Boston is very, very expensive for what you get. I mean, you get basically destroyed apartments for prime extreme prices, okay? All right, so with that said, the first one that we're just clicking through at this point is the death of a beneficiary. Obviously, they have to go ahead and cut the benefits off immediately because they're not supposed to continue to pay them. Jody Osborne, thank you for the $9.99 donation. Very, very cool. Let me put a big heart on there. Walter, how can I buy a PH session or private session with you? Thank you for all your hard work and for keeping us informed. I super appreciate it. So the way you do it is basically, and just let me know that you already did a $10 through the chat. But basically, you just email me or you just call the law firm. We send you a sheet. It's a one-page mini contract Or the other way is basically the mini contract is below in the bio. You just fill it out, you shoot it over to us, you send the payment, and then you get the half an hour or the 1 hour option, and we go through whatever the complex legal situation is. I get some really interesting situations, overpayments, basically people who are being investigated by the CDI units, people who are going through CDR, people who are, about to retire and they're executives and they're trying to figure out how to like build everything out to make the most sense for them financially, because, they're looking to stack benefits as they can. But the bottom line is, just to be very super clear, it's just one of those gigs where if you want a private session, mini contract is below. And we're doing so many of those. Holy cannoli. But they're really interesting. Really, I can't even tell you about what they are because they're private, but they are very interesting. I'll just say that. All right. With that said, the next one on here that they're going to go ahead and pull your benefits quickly is fraud that's proven by the SSA or proven by OIG. Okay. Remember, the SSA is like the big umbrella, and underneath it is the Office of Inspector General. Those are like the attorneys and the administrative helpers. Like, think of them as the legal elves of the Social Security Administration's commissioner. Again, that is probably not what they want to be thought of, but for tonight, OIG, Office of Inspector General, think of them as Santa's little helpers, the legal elves, okay? They're going to hate that. If they ever watch this video, I'm probably going to get some angry comments, but this is a good way to think about them. So with that said, they will then reach out to commandos to go ahead and investigate people and do stuff. Those are the CDI units. Those are basically, the groups that go and follow you around, interview your neighbors, stuff like that. But OIG, if they find that there's fraud and they can prove it and they've got it, they're almost immediately going to cut off benefits, okay? And that's one of the other ways that they kill off benefits for a Social Security recipient. I am now paranoid that this mix board is going to just start cricketing. Like, it works if I can turn it off and hold on. Yeah, okay, all right, it's working. We have applause. Oh, I'm going to screw with that one. I'm going to have some fun with that one. All right, so here's what you need to know. The next one is if you refuse to cooperate with the SSA, they will cut off your benefits. What do I mean by that? The SSA gives you a lot of rope for you to wiggle it and say, I'm here, I'm alive, what's going on? So if you refuse to interact with them, if you refuse to fill out a form, if you refuse to do this or that or that, whatever, then at that point, what will happen is they'll go ahead and start cutting off benefits. Now, remember, under Martin O'Malley, the commissioner that was brought in at the very end, technically he wasn't the last commissioner under Biden, but he was like the last commissioner that was tapped and put in by Biden. He was like the last commissioner. So he wasn't just a placeholder. So the main thing was, just to kind of keep in mind, was that they wanted to say, hey, look, if you don't respond, we're only going to take 10% from your benefits, right? And that was kind of their way of saying, like, okay, we know you need them. We know blah, 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 blah. Now, nowadays, it's a little bit different. They take 50%, but if you don't respond at all, if they need something, if they require something, they will cut your benefits off. That's just the way it is. Because look, if they have to get a new phone number, a new address, a new this, a new that, they expect you and they require you to communicate with the SSA to continue to receive your benefits. And that's across the spectrum. Could be an issue with your retirement benefits, could be an issue with your Social Security disability insurance benefits, or your supplemental security income benefits, or your spousal benefits, widow's benefits, disabled or child benefits, whatever. It could be any one of those. If you don't communicate with them when they need to catch up with you, then they can cut off your benefits. There's a 50% rule now, but still, if you continue to do that, they can go ahead and begin the process to end the benefits. All right, with that said, if you fail to provide requested documents, okay, if you fail to provide requested documents, they can go ahead and it's not an immediate thing. They'll send you some additional notices. They'll send you some additional, hey, what the hells? And then, but if you tell them, I'm not going to fill this out, go, bleep yourself, yada, yada, then you will go down the road, and it's not an immediate thing, where they will go ahead and cut off your benefits, okay? Another thing is if you fail to attend a continuing disability review. So if you don't do your CDR and you won't go to their doctor and you won't respond to them, this can ultimately end up where they cut off your benefits. They'll usually do a reduction, which is now the 50% rule. It used to be just the 10% that they take away under Martin O'Malley. So here's why I like Commissioner Martin O'Malley, okay? He was a very practical person when it came to understanding Social Security recipients. Social Security recipients are usually not totally understood by modern middle class. Modern middle class is like, I don't like work, but I got to work. And when somebody in the modern middle class is like, oh, that person doesn't have to work because they're disabled, but yet they seem like they're okay enough to go get a job, they're expecting, the middle class is like expecting them to be like in a chamber, in a bedroom with a bunch of medical documentation and machines around them. But that's not the reality. The reality is not being able to work, a full-time job in the national economy is like the main way most people are found disabled. So as a result, when, for example, you decide that you're not going to do a CDR, you're not going to participate, you're not going to do this, they will ultimately begin the process of cutting off your benefits, okay? All right, next one. If you fail to go to a consultative examination appointment, that's that CEME, the medical appointment set up for you by the SSA to go see their doctor. Yes, ultimately they can cut off your benefits for that one as well, although they don't usually do that in an immediate sense, okay? Next one, failure to report address changes. So immediate cutoff is especially if you're in like a foreign country that they're worried about, like an Afghanistan, a Pakistan, or whatever. In that instance, if you're not communicating with them or reporting, updated this, updated that, they get real worried real fast. They cut that puppy off. If it's, you just haven't responded and they've tried to reach you, you've got some time in there. You've got some time where they're going to go ahead and try again, wait a little bit of period. DDS will try and reach out again and try and get a hold of you. Sometimes it's the local field office that will, sometimes it's DDS. Okay. All right. Classic thing, SSA mail returned as undeliverable. So I run into this all the time because, as you guys know, I work at a homeless facility on Wednesdays to help the homeless with disability benefits. And there are a bunch of SSI individuals for the most part. So what do you need to know? When it comes to the mail being returned, when it comes to it being undeliverable, usually if they're represented by an attorney or wherever represented by an attorney, they'll reach out to the attorney and say, hey, your client is being a little, snookeroo, and we need to go ahead and get a hold of them. Do you have any more recent contact information? And then the attorney usually has the most recent, like address, phone number, stuff like that, because clients, after they're found disabled, I don't care who you are, at some point you're going to have a question. And if you had a good disability attorney, you'll reach back out to them. If you had like a big boxer where they're never really connected to you, you won't reach out to them. You'll end up reaching out probably to somebody like me. So in that instance, yes, the attorneys usually have the most up-to-date contact information we put in their file because, even after we've gotten them found disabled, people always have questions thereafter. So bottom line is this, if you don't keep the SSA abreast with your most current, like your, and here's a side note. Let me teach you a little trick here. You want to go ahead and file taxes, even if you're not supposed to be taxed. You want to go ahead and file taxes each year just to give the IRS your most recent contact information, because the SSA will communicate with the IRS to get the most recent contact information. So like your attorney, the IRS, you want to give them your updated contact information so that if something happens and the SSA can't get a hold of you or they don't have the most recent contact information, you've got a plan B to go ahead and make sure that when the SSA reaches out, they can still get a hold of you, because you don't want to lose your benefits. That's no way to go. All right, another one. Non-U.S. citizen loses lawful status. This is like an immediate cutoff. There was actually a super famous case about this where a guy was basically deported and then he claimed and sued the U.S. government so that he could go ahead and get a copy of essentially his, or get access to his retirement benefits, because he said, hey, I have a legal right to these retirement benefits because I worked and paid for them, while I was working all these years while I was in the United States, and then you guys deported me. Not fair. Now, here's the kicker, though. The Supreme Court came and ruled and said, hey, while it seems like you have a right to your retirement benefits are actually solely a tax. They're not actually a right. You don't have a right to the benefits you get each month. You can have an expectation, but it's just a tax. So what we learned from the Supreme Court ruling was that politicians promise you that you are due your benefits and all that jazz, right? But the reality is, I think it was 1937 Supreme Court ruling, they said, no, these benefits are not actually a right. They're just a tax, which means that if you are deported, you have no right to sue the U.S. government to go ahead and get your retirement benefits or any other types of benefits you think would be actionable that you would normally receive, because you don't have a right to them. They are just purely a tax. Okay, next one. Okay, extradition outside the U.S., pending trial or sentencing, same kind of gig. If you are a criminal, okay, so we're talking about somebody who's going to jail or prison for more than 30 days. It's like 30 plus kind of gig. And the rules are different for SSI and SSDI, but they're pretty much just, if you're in there for more than 30 days kind of gig, that's what you can learn it as. In that situation, what happens is they are required to cut off your benefits. And what happens is they won't usually figure it out until like a month or two later, and then you'll get an overpayment for those 2 months, and they'll cut off benefits down the line once you get out. But the point is this: essentially, what happens is you will go ahead, go to jail, go to prison, reach that 30-day, 31st day, 32nd day, 33rd day, whatever. And then at that point, benefits are required by law to be cut off. And the reason why, it's a very simple one. The United States government, if they have to put you in jail or prison, that means they're double paying for you if they were to pay your benefits. So they're like, no. If we got to pay for you 30 plus, like if you're in there for more than a month, we ain't paying you the next month. If you do the little thing, you're in there for 15 days, 20 days, 25 days, fine. We'll still send you your check. Your life still has to go on. You have to pay your rent. But if you're in there for over 30 days, you're getting a slapperoo on the wristaroo, okay? A little punishing, a little punish, right? You're getting that, a little whooping, all right? Because you have been paid for that month by the U.S. government to have you enjoy the wonderful, incredible creme brulee, sorry. I grew up in the country. Creme brulee. I'm trying to act a little bit higher than my status. Creme brulee. A little creme brulee with a little, what are those eggs called? The Russian egg? Caviar. A little creme brulee with a little caviar on top. That is the government, although they don't give you that. The government, when you go to, for those of you, just so you understand, if you go to prison or jail, they do not give you white truffle Haagen-Dazs ice cream. They don't. I was very saddened to hear this myself. However, I knew that it was a likelihood. So I'm just letting you know, if you weren't sure, that's how it happens. All right. So the bottom line is 30 plus days kind of gig. They're not going to go ahead and pay your check. Immediate cutoff once they find out. Okay. And remember, they have access to those systems. They press a button and it will tell them essentially where your new lock and key is at for your stay, which is never a fun thing. All right. If you are a fugitive felon, warrant outstanding, they're going to cut off them benefits. If you are on probation, parole violation warrant, where basically you were supposed to be doing probation and then you just flubbed it up, they're going to cut off those benefits. If you are convicted for treason, okay, if you are convicted for treason, convicted for national security crimes, convicted for subversive activities, sabotage, terrorism, certain immigration crimes, actually there's a ton of crimes. Pretty much conviction. And here's the thing. Anything that would essentially be like, so most crimes are going to cut off your benefits that are over 30 days. Most crimes. And, some of you are going to be like, well, that crime could be maybe if you're like a really liberal judge, yeah, maybe you'd make it. Maybe you'd be okay. But, remember, it's, what I mean? It depends on how the judge was feeling that day. How did the golf game go over the weekend? Was the bagel salted enough? All that stuff. But, if you commit fraud against the SSA, you're definitely cutting it off. And you ain't getting that for a long time. You have misuse of Social Security benefits, abuse of Social Security numbers, selling Social Security numbers, identity theft related to Social Security information. Maybe if you impersonated an SSA employee, or maybe for example, you have you were defrauding the SSA in some way, or you hacked into the SSA system, or you did wire fraud or mail fraud or digi fraud. All that stuff, your benefits are cutting off immediately. All right, next one. There's another one too. If you have to go into a mental facility or some sort of hospitalization where the government is paying for more than 50% of it, through Medicare or whatever, then usually they will cut off the benefits because your living expenses are being paid for in part by the U.S. government. So that's another way where they can go ahead and essentially cut off your benefits immediately. And remember, this list is not meant to make you scared. It's not. It's meant to educate you so that you're walking into this going broad shoulders, I feel good, right? So that you can walk into the future scenario where you feel like what are the things that are going to be bad for your situation. That's the whole point of this. It's not to scare you. It's not to be it's to teach you essentially what you got to watch out for, okay? All right, let's talk about some of the SSI ones, because SSI people are the easiest ones to, unfortunately, have their benefits be cut off because there's so many restrictions and limitations, especially financially, okay? But please remember to like and subscribe. Please remember to like and subscribe. Also, and I don't know where, I put it over here. Hold on, real quick, one thing. I don't do Medicare stuff. I don't sign people up. I don't hang out at the Medicare office. I don't like to, basically dine with Medicare cards in front of me and be like, look at my pretty collection. I don't do any of that stuff. So Medicare questions, Medicare stuff, you want them to go ahead and basically do a tune-up on your current like Medicare Advantage plan, give them a call. It's free. I don't do Medicare stuff. I do the law stuff related to Social Security. Okay. So bottom line is 339-226-6287. Give them a call. Now, also very interesting. We're going to be doing a string of videos about fraud related to Medicare. So you can understand essentially what they're finding, what's happening to those doctors. But a lot of these medical facilities have been overcharging and playing an overcharging game. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there are some hospitals out there where it's like every 2 years, they're getting a new wing. But bottom line is, if you have any Medicare questions, give them a call. They will be able to go ahead and help you out with that. Okay. And they are following the fraud stuff as well. So it is a good gig. All right. Very cool. With that said, is Chapter. Very cool. All right. Let's get into this real quick. So let's say that you are on SSI benefits and you go ahead and go over the $2,000 resource limit. They're not going to figure it out right away, although they're getting better at it. Now that they have like full unfettered access for the most part to a lot of your bank accounts, the bottom line is they're going to go ahead and see when you get over the 2,000 very quickly, and boom, overpayment, cut off of benefits sort of situation. Another thing too is like if you have a gift of cash or something, and then you put into the bank, or they're able to go ahead and trace it, or somebody makes a statement online about money they gave you, and then all of a sudden potentially pushes you over. You got to be careful with that stuff. Another thing is if you're working on SSDI or SSI benefits, $1,620. Element 1, you earn over that for that next month, you are not eligible. Now, there are things like earways. There are things like deductibles. But again, you know what I mean? Those are specific situations. We can always do a video on that. All right, another kicker that kills off benefits for SSI people, inheritance. You got to do the spend down. You got to be fast about it, okay? Another thing is this. If you fail to report wages, now look, when people think about failing to report wages, a lot of them think like, oh, well, that person just kind of like failed to report that month's wages or whatever. No. It's a lot more than that. Some people fraud the government. They don't report that they're working at all. Some people fraud the government and they'll report part of their wages and not all of their wages. I don't blame you. Like, I get it. I'm not here to say like it's good or bad or whatever. It's bad, but what I'm trying to say to you is I get it. Like post-Biden, Bidenomics, I get it. Like, I bought food from the grocery store today. Look, if you spent $300 and something at the grocery store, you would expect your entire fridge to be full. It wasn't even close. It was like 1/3 of the way full. And to me, that's like just shocking because, food prices were just absolutely obnoxious. They're absolutely obnoxious. And it's just one of those weird things because remember those days when you used to be able to walk into Walmart and you had $20 and you were like, I am a king. Show me to your, blah, 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 blah. You could buy tons of stuff. You could fill up an entire cart with $20. I mean, sure, they'd be big items and they'd be cheap items, but still, you could do it. One of them might be inflatable. No, not judging. But the bottom line is you could do it. Now it's like, holy cannoli. Heaven forbid you get the big Haagen-Dazs. I'm just saying. It is what it is, okay? Let's give a little bit of, there you go. Let's feel good about it. And with the crickets. All right, here we go. All right, so let's keep rocking and rolling. All right, real estate ownership. If you have more than one house, okay, and you're on SSI benefits, then basically they're going to cut the benefits off. If you have life insurance over $1,500, they're going to cut the benefits off. If you have more than one vehicle and the vehicle in total is worth more than $2,000, which is what happened after Bidenomics. Like, remember when you used to have like a piece of junk vehicle? Remember those days? And you were like, man, this vehicle's junk. And then, Biden came along. Even the junker clunkers are worth thousands of dollars now. A destroyed, sad, doesn't really start car is now worth hundreds to thousands of dollars. I just don't get it. I honestly do not get it. I don't get it. People are like, oh, he's the best president we've ever had. I'm just sitting in the corner being like, at what point, like when the first day he got in, is that what you're judging him by? I'm not sure what happened. I know COVID it was not fair. I know, but anyways, not getting into the politics. I love all presidents because they obviously love me. All right. With that said, Harry Bear, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Let me put a big heart there. He said First Forum Foundation fundraiser. Very cool. And I love that. You're a super, super subscriber. He's got the membership badge there, which means he's been helping out the channel, which is super important. in the not too distant future, and I'm on vacation right now, and I get one of these, and I just so you know how it works. I work the entire day, but between about 6 to 8 p.m. on weekdays, I get to do whatever I want. Go walk on the beach, whatever. On the weekend, I spend half the day working, half the day I get to do whatever I want. So I don't have a great life. That's the reality of it. But in the not too distant future, we are going to be having halftime shows with real gear and real artists, and it's going to be amazing. You're going to get to see talent of people who are receiving Social Security benefits and talented people who basically are just trying to get their name out there and have a good time. All right, let's keep rolling. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you have too much resources and you hold on to them and they find out about them and you don't sell them and then track how you sold them, then basically they can take away your benefits. All right, let me give you an example. If you go ahead and receive an inheritance and you don't track what money you gave to who, then they could ban you from receiving benefits for a certain amount of time as a punishment for not tracking how your actual spend down occurred, which is, of course, another way that they would end up killing off the benefits. Okay, next one. If you fail to report marriage, spousal income, resources, deeming, but basically that you met the love of your life and you just decided not to tell the SSA about it and you're on SSI benefits, guess what? They can go ahead and end your benefits because that is a version of fraud. Okay, but in most instances, they just hit you with an overpayment. Now, if you fail to report a divorce, same kind of gig, they get a little bit cranky about it. If a child leaves the household and they're paying you benefits and they're supposed to cut off those benefits and pay them to somebody else, they cut those benefits. Unreported means not good. They look at that as fraud. Household. So, let's talk about this. Let's say that, let's do another one. Actually, let's do another one. Let's say that you move into a nursing home and your Medicaid pays basically more than 50% of the institutional cost. They're not going to give you, full benefits in that situation because Medicaid is paying so much. There's a balancing figure there. Also, if you move outside of the United States for more than 30 days, when you're on SSI benefits, they're going to cut off the benefits. That is a hard line. If you're on SSDI benefits, bon voyage. Get the hell out of the country. If you're on retirement benefits, go have fun. I hear that people have a really good time in Amsterdam. Okay. But if you're on SSI benefits, you better not be gone for 30 plus days. I understand there are places in Amsterdam that might get lost. I understand that. I'm not judging you. Yeah, it's time for that. So with that, I just learned of that button. That button's going to be in every show now. Let me tell you, little crickets for everybody. All right. So with that said, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. Okay. So another thing is if you refuse to share data with the SSA that they're supposed to have access to. So for example, like financial data or basically living arrangement data or, anything that they're supposed to be able to have access to and you limit them, you don't allow the SSA to see that, boom, they're going to cut off the benefits. Okay. If you overstate some of your calculations for the 1/3 reduction rule for in-kind support maintenance, they don't usually cut it off, but they usually send you a form and go, hey, wink, wink. We think you're playing with the numbers a little bit of shady number playing right there. Okay. Now, another thing, if they basically ask for bank statements and those bank statements are available, but the bank no longer has them, but you do have them and you made that statement and you won't give them to them, that can mean they cut off the benefits. That's another thing that gets it. Okay. Another thing as well, just kind of keep in mind is if you win the lottery and you're on SSI benefits, pretty much going to knock you right off. Gambling winnings, going to knock you right off. So if you're going on a cruise and there's gambling on the cruise, I'm just letting you know, if you get lucky, they're probably going to cut that off. I have gone on the gambling cruise ships. And let me tell you something, as somebody who does not gamble, because I just don't, I don't know. Do you guys like gambling? I've always had a hard time making that connection by like pulling this thing, the numbers line up. It's a computer screen and it's going to tell me whether or not I win or lose money. Like whenever I go there and I like play it for like 3 turns, I'm like, this is stupid. I know I'm going to lose. The machines can't love me. There's no love there. The card can't be like caressed. It can't be like frothed. It can't be like throttled up. There's no way that I can't give it a little electrical boost, right? Can't give it a little massage on the back of its chipset. There's no way to actually win in that situation. So if you guys like gambling, let me know what it is that connects you to that, because I've never understood that at all. All right, another thing, okay? Let's say that basically you have, oh God, there's so many of them. There's so many. I'm trying to keep this video short too. All right, we're going to do one last one. Let's say, for example, You go ahead and leave the country, and then you claim that you came back to the country, but they find proof online that you didn't actually come back to the country and you were on SSI benefits. This does happen. It usually happens with people that are getting older on SSI benefits, where they're going back to their country of origin to go ahead and live the rest of their life. They will cut off the benefits. They will hit you with an overpayment, but good luck collecting that overpayment, because when people move back to that country of origin, they ain't coming back to the US to try and pay anything back. They don't care. Not their problem. Is what it is. I've done quite a few of those phone calls when it comes to those private sessions. They leave the country. They got what they got. They're done. They're never coming back to the United States. That's just is what it is. All right. With that said, we have covered a giant amount of ways that the Social Security Administration could, in fact, cut off your benefits. Is this list absolute with every single potential one? No, but it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. The main things to kind of remember is that at the end of the day, if you do a criminal act and you're going to be in there for more than 30 days, they're going to cut it off. If you're getting if you're staying in a mental facility or you're staying at like some facility for treatment or whatever for more than 30 days, they're usually going to go ahead and cut it off, okay? Because they're already paying through it, one of these other programs, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And the point is, some of these things, although with SSDI benefits and Medicare, there's other rules that apply, but SSI, Medicaid, man, they're going to take those benefits. They're going to take those benefits real fast. You win a lot of money and you're on SSI, you gamble and win, you win the lottery, whatever, they're going to cut it off. You go to the resource limit, they're going to cut it off. You go over the SGA limit, they're going to cut it off. Same thing for the SSDI benefits with $1,620. You earn over that for the month, they're going to cut it off, okay? These are instant cutoffs. Sometimes, and this is the important thing, the instant cutoff is permanent going forward until you fix it. You don't contact them back after a while. You don't give them a change address. You don't give them a new phone number, etc. Sometimes they basically ding you, and then they continue the benefits after you've basically worked out, okay, yeah, I've got an overpayment. You're going to pay this much back, and there you go. The way they're trying to do it usually is that when there's an overpayment situation, they'll allow you to receive your check and then keep rolling. They'll allow you some appeal time to keep it rolling. But at the end of the day, they want you to either settle it, get a reduction in it, or beat it. Those are like the main options that they're looking for when it comes to that situation. Okay. With that said, I will catch you all a little bit later. And then from there, okay, so the next video is about essentially, it's an interesting thing. It's about lists that are quotas for terminating benefits. Do SSA quota lists for terminating benefits exist? When did they first start investigating the process of quota termination of benefit lists, and how will they affect you in the future if they do exist? So that's the next video. Attorney Walter Hnot, please remember to like. Don't be afraid to hit that like button. It's sitting there. It wants to get that little tickle. Get on it. Like and subscribe. Also, please remember to head over to Disability Resolution on Google and go ahead and click on Disability Resolution to go ahead and add some stars if you want. It's totally up to you. No problem. I just love waking up to those and seeing those big stars up there. Okay. With that said, I go live and I answer questions for free on Mondays and Thursdays. We're going to do that today. And also, very important, if you guys want to do a private session, go ahead and basically mini contract below for 30-minute or 1 hour. Other than that, of course, America's Most Viewed, subscribe to and clicked on Disability Attorney. If you want me to represent you for your disability claim, that's fine. Reach out during the 9 to 5 for the law firm. I'll catch you a little bit later. We'll rock and roll from there. Attorney Walter Hnot, and thank you so much. And I'm going to be at the next video in about 5 to 10 minutes. So be ready, be soon. I'll put the link in the chat below. Catch you soon. All right, bye-bye, everybody.